How much, do you mind me asking how much you've lost?
We're approaching the 200-pound mark.
Wow.
I would guess that I have lost an entire Jimmy Kimmel. I still get stuck here sometimes. I probably never said it this honestly, but this is the podcast to be that real about, is that I have just...
He's a crossover artist in more ways than one.
Multi-genre, multi-platform.
Give it up for Jelly Roll!
I just have to fight that little pirate on my shoulder that's, you know, them late nights, and just, I'm a food addict, man. I probably never said it this honestly, but this is the podcast to be that real about, is that I have just had a bad relationship with food from birth.
Just seen that 250 or 200 pound weight loss from Jelly Roll. And it's really interesting because I started doing a bit of research on this. And there's this podcast Jay Shetty had last year. So a year ago, he was like, had his habits dialed in and stuff. And he talks about his relationship with food. I mean, it was so real, honestly. And it's evident that his weight loss so far, I think he's down to like 300 and something from being something like 500 pounds. I mean, it's crazy, but it's very clear that his process is all about the mind. I think it demonstrates the value of like Stoic virtues. I mean, he talks about how ancient wisdom from like the Hindu tradition helped, and you know, very similar thoughts in obviously Stoicism, Buddhism. Hi, if it's your first time here, I'm Sam, the Stoic teacher, philosophy and theology graduate from the University of Cambridge, and lost over 100 pounds of weight using the philosophy of Stoicism, changed my life, and now I make content about the philosophy of Stoicism. So just seeing this Jelly Roll transformation, I mean, it's just crazy. And like I was mentioning, it's quite clear that mindset would have been absolutely key in this. And I think when he was halfway during his journey, this podcast with Jay Shetty, so interesting to hear. He really does embody kind of the Stoic virtues, especially when he's like taking accountability for maybe the poor decisions that he'd made in the past. So in terms of courage, I mean, it really was quite emotional for me hearing about his relationship with food. He talks about growing up, how he didn't have an example for that. And I think certainly for me, I've grown up seeing my mum have a really problematic relation with food. And then I had a really problematic relationship with food, hence why I weighed over 322 pounds. And it's always a ongoing battle. And hearing him was extremely courageous to hear him speaking out on this, because it wasn't just about food. I mean, it was even the insecurities that being big can cause. I mean, he talks about how he basically, because of his weight, he would try and validate himself by being with as many women as possible. And, you know, talking about this publicly takes a lot of courage. So he definitely has a lot of courage, especially in terms of confronting his demons. I mean, he talks about how when he was 13 years old, he was involved in like an armed robbery. He was locked away, and he takes accountability for those things. So very certainly demonstrates courage. In terms of justice, he, on the back of his transformation, talks about how much he wants to help others who are struggling. And you know, for a lot of us, that's not the first thought that we have, you know. If anything, sometimes if people don't embody the Stoic virtues, what they end up doing is they get very full of themselves, and they think, oh, you know, I'm successful, and so I'm someone who, you know, I'm really, really good, get our egos filled, start praising ourselves too much. And so, yeah, I think that it certainly shows the value of justice as well in terms of trying to help others. The third Stoic virtue that we're going to talk about, moderation. Now, this is normally the most obvious one when it comes to weight loss transformation, because usually it takes a lot of moderation to lose weight. But to lose that much weight, what you know for sure is that his nutritional processes would have been genuinely moderate, not these kind of extreme fad diets that you hear, like lose 20 pounds in 20 days or whatever. Because I mean, the guy's lost 250 pounds. That's a really significant amount of weight that he's managed to lose. I mean, it's just crazy. And in terms of moderation, in addition to that, again, it shows us a victory of the mind, because it wasn't just to do with food. He managed to fight the addictions to like alcohol and other things like that. So certainly having to express moderation there. And the final one in terms of wisdom, I think that this one's really, really interesting, because in terms of showing wisdom, he talks about like not just himself, but he talks about the role that, say, his partner played. She made him feel believed in, you know? She made him feel like he was important. And for a lot of people, you know, when they've been very successful, I mean, Jelly Roll's got a song with Eminem, right? Let's get this clear. If you're a musician, you have a song with Eminem, you've completed life, yeah? So this whole thing of like when we succeed, often that leads to people maybe not being as wise potentially. And the fact that he is so wise is really, really impressive. And the fact that he pays his dues, talks about how his wife came and kind of changed his life, turned his stuff around. So I think that all of that is really, really impressive. And overall, I think that Jelly Roll's transformation demonstrates all 4 Stoic virtues, and it shows that if you start implementing Stoic virtues, you can lose not just 100 plus pounds, but 200 plus pounds. And if you want more content like this, follow for some more ancient wisdom for modern times. Bye now.